All things look good right now. But when you look at this Texans team, do they seem as strong, as in control? Are you buying them as true contenders right now in the AFC?
I would buy them as true contenders. It's very, very rare you're going to be able to win the number of games that they have. Now, they've had a unique opportunity with either backup quarterbacks, a short week, a colossal of things, but this is their most impressive win. And what you'd like to see is, with them, how physical can this team be? We had question marks about J.J. Watt and Clowney. Would they both be able to stay healthy throughout the year? Seems like that is going to be the case. J.J. Watt is probably him and Andrew Luck as far as comeback player of the year, having phenomenal seasons. So if you tell me that, I've been like, okay, they're going to at least win 8 games if their defense is competent, if their back end doesn't give up as many big plays. Now, Deshaun Watson, is he going to come back? How good is he going to be compared to last season? I had predicted that I thought he would come back a little bit. I still think he is a ultra star that we have in the NFL, but I thought there would be some correction. I'm worried about the loss of Will Fuller because I do believe that their inability to be consistent, to get him deep, and his complementary speed and route running of the DeAndre Hopkins on the other side, I thought that was going to be lethal. I didn't believe in the offensive line. I'm starting to get more confidence in them after the tremendous performances they had last night. Lamar Miller, their running back, man, he's had a bizarre career. No one in the history of the league has had 2 runs, 97 yards in the history of this league. His 8th year in the league, but his consistency level has never been there.
Right.
Started off in Miami, has never been able to get, ever since they paid him big money, going out and getting him from the Dolphins, bringing him there to Houston. So I do believe that they are a contender. I'm concerned about their lack of speed and the deep threat on the offensive end. But if J.J. Watt and the defense continues to play like that, they're going to be in a lot of games in an AFC that I believe is not that strong.
So last week we did our first Nick Makes a List. I had 7 teams that are Super Bowl contenders. And even though the Texans had one of the 6 best records in football at the time, I didn't include them on that list. And that was anticipating they'd probably win at home against a Titans team that this year's been inconsistent at best. I still don't have them as contenders because I am not sold on the offensive line. And the one thing you did not mention, and I think it will rear its head come playoff time, I am not sold on the coaching staff at all. The Texans right now, they're positioned quite well. Once the playoffs come around, they're a team that most likely, if they do hold on to win the division against the Colts, they could be facing a Chargers team. I trust the Chargers far more than I trust the Texans. If they win their division and the second wild card team, that's probably going to be the Colts. I trust the Colts and what they're doing more, not to mention, obviously, I trust the Patriots, the Steelers, and of course the Chiefs more. I think the Texans should get tremendous credit for not letting go of the rope after starting 0-3, for losing games the way they did, and then at the beginning of that winning streak, those were not overwhelming wins. They were back-to-back overtime wins, and then a last-second win against Buffalo. But in this 8-game winning streak, they've had 5 games that I would call coin flip games. They've won all 5 coin flips. So their record to me is a little inflated. And even last night was one of the most bizarre football games I've ever seen, in that I've never seen a quarterback go 22 of 23.
Like Mariota.
And his team is getting blown out the whole time. They're up 10-0, and from that moment forward, they're getting blown out. Mariota seemingly didn't make a mistake. I think Mariota is the second highest completion percentage in a game in NFL history. Second to what Phillip Rivers did 2 days ago. Rivers' team won by 35. Mariota's team lost by 3 scores. That part was bizarre. I do think Watt is a great story. We're finally seeing Watt and Clowney, and Christian Covington's been a nice addition for them. There are some good elements of this team. Demaryius Thomas got involved yesterday. But I think they will go into the playoffs as the team in the AFC least likely to make a playoff run.
We talk about who you trust against other teams in the AFC. Let's talk about specifically. A lot of us didn't think that we were going to see the Deshaun Watson we saw last year. If this team is going to go far, he's going to have to be able to lead this team. Take a deeper dive. How much do you trust this quarterback to be able to, A, withstand anything else that's going to be thrown at him, and his offensive line to protect him, and then to move this team into the playoffs?
Yeah, I do trust him. I do like the way they've game planned him, where he's a drop-back quarterback, but they do call some things to utilize his overall athleticism. I think he's careful enough with his body. He is very, very aggressive, not playing timid after the knee injury. And a lot of people still have to realize, he injured his knee in practice. It's totally different when you get injured, non-contact in practice, compared to what the Philadelphia quarterback
happened to Carson Wentz.
With Carson Wentz. When you get smashed like that, the mental recovery is totally different. So what Deshaun is doing in year number 2, we knew he couldn't reach that level on a consistent level, but we wanted to make sure that he was close enough to that level, and I think that I have seen signs of that. Will Fuller's absent, it hurts, because what they do is they try to be physical in the running game, which leads to play-action pass, which leads to deep shots down the field, and that's something he was very special. I don't think you can recapture the speed and the connection that they had earlier in their career with Demaryius Thomas, who's more of a possession receiver.
And the numbers with Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller were out of this world. Last year they played 4 games together. They had 7 touchdowns, but Will Fuller had 7 touchdown catches in 4 games with Deshaun Watson. He was continuing not quite that trajectory, but on that trend this year until he got hurt. So it is a huge loss for them. My worry about Deshaun Watson is their inability to protect him, and yesterday he was dynamic with his legs. 9 carries, 70 yards, a touchdown, but when he's getting hit in the pocket, and he's also opening himself up to hits down the field running the football, even if he'd never been hurt, take the ACLs out of it, just as far as the ability to take NFL punishment. The Texans right now are paying the price for, they signed Brock Osweiler. To get rid of him, they had to trade away a second-round pick. They spent 2 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson. They had a contract dispute with Dwayne Brown. They got rid of him. So because of all those, because they didn't have the draft picks and they got rid of their left tackle, right now their offensive line is not even a work in progress. The progress will start this offseason, and Watson is too often running for his life, for my taste, as far as believing that I think he's an excellent player. I think he is at more risk than almost any quarterback in football right now because of the personnel around him.
I didn't have any different feeling about Russell Wilson when he was in his second year.
Really?
And even though Russell hadn't gotten hurt, Russell and him have a little different body type, but I do believe Deshaun, he can take the pound. He is not Cam Newton, but, man, he's very athletic. I believe it helps out the coaching staff. It helps out this offense. It helps them. I don't mind the guy running in controlled situations. I do want them to improve their offensive line, so at least on some of his drop back stuff, he gets a cleaner look and the ability to be able to develop. It helps out. You can't always have free runners, and you can't always have my offense is off schedule. No, you can't do that to a young quarterback. So this is still a team that's trending on the way up. I believe they can get into the playoff, but they are a year away. We talk about that with teams, and there's nothing wrong with that. They need a good, strong offseason. They need a good, strong draft, build to fortify that offensive line to give them some protection. But, speed, you can't replace speed in the season. And I just believe that right there is really going to hurt them going forward.
And they have a winnable game coming up this weekend when they host the Cleveland Browns.
The rest of their games are winnable. They got a soft schedule the rest of the way.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, talk some Packers.